Good evening, my name is Yinka Tinabili and I'm here to make a presentation about human immunity and it is my assignment 20 and starting with I have to talk about the skin. Analyzing the skin as a barrier to infection. The skin is the largest organ and is the most important barrier against infections. Infections is the invasion and multiplication of microorganisms such as bacteria, viruses, parasites that are normally present within the body. The skin forms a waterproof mechanism barrier that protects the body from ultraviolet radiation. It thus inhibits water loss, harmful chemicals and pathogens. Therefore, as long as the skin stays unbroken, it will be the body's first form of defense and barrier against infection. If the skin is injured, such as if it forms blisters, pain, a cut or a burn, bacteria can enter the body and therefore cause an infection. The skin alerts the immune system the presence of harmful organisms. It does produce and excrete antibacterial substances. The skin produces sweat and other skin secretions, may lower pH, contain toxic lipids, and physically wash microbes away from the body. Signs include heat, pain, redness, swelling, and loss of function. And this brings us back to the inflammatory response to a broken skin. When your skin gets broken, what are the responses that you get from your when inflammatory process occur? The first thing is that there is chemical signals such as histamine or prostaglandins. They are being released and capillaries dilate and become more permeable. Clotting begins, your blood begins to clot. Then also the third phase is that chemokines attract phagocytes, and then the fourth stage is that the pathogens are consumed and healing begins. While the fifth thing that happens is that blood clotting closes the wound. And now this brings me next to the effectiveness of barriers to infection by our body orifices. The skin, which as I earlier explained, is still the largest body's barrier to infection, and also brings us to the mucous membrane, which is made up of a layer of epithelial cells which is bound by tight junctions. It secretes a moist, sticky substance known as mucus, which covers and protects the more fragile cell layer beneath it and traps debris and particulate matters, including microbes. So therefore, what does this mucus also do? Mucus secretion also contains antimicrobial peptides. The mucous membrane line the surface of the nose, the hair, the eyes, the throat, the mouth, the vagina, and the GI, etc., etc. The respiratory tract lining cells secrete phlegm or mucus that help to trap small particles and microorganisms. It also has cilia, which sweeps trapped particles out via the throat and nose. The gastrointestinal tract help to remove dead and harmful microorganisms via peristalsis. The stomach lining secretes hydrochloric acid, which is strong to kill many microbes. The female genital, which is the vagina, is of 4.5 pH, and that means it's been acidic. This prevents harmful bacteria from growing. This is possible because lactic acid is formed when lactobacillus metabolizes the glycogen in the cervical secretion. And this next brings us to the physical, just a diagram of the physical defense of the body. It shows the eyes, It shows the eyelid, the function of how the eyelid responds, the kidney, the urethra, all these major physical defenses that our body has got. And also this brings me now back to the role of the thymus, lymphatic nodes and the lymphatic ducts. The entire lymphatic system works together to help produce the body, to help protect the body against infection. This majorly helps to fight against infection in the body. And now this brings us to the thymus gland. What does the thymus gland do? This is the main organ of the lymphatic system. Its major function is to promote the development of specific cell of the immune system, which is called the T lymphocytes. And once matured, these cells leaves the thymus and are transported via the blood vessels to the lymphatic nodes and the spine. The T lymphocytes are responsible for cell-mediated immunity, which is an immune response that involves the action of certain immune cells to help fight against infection in our body. And this also brings us next to another important part of the lymphatic system, which is the lymph nodes. It helps to filter lymph of pathogens, cellular waste, dead cells, and cancerous cells. Lymph nodes house immune cells called the lymphocytes, which helps to defend power before and after cell infection. Lymph enters the node through the afferent lymphatic vessels, filters as it passes through the channel in the nodes, which is in the nodes called sinuses, and leaves the nose through an efferent lymphatic vessels. And this also brings me next to another important part of this system, the lymphatic system, which is the lymphatic duct. This is two large vessels in which all the lymphatic vessels converge. The right lymphatic duct joins the venous system at the junction of the right internal jugular and subclavian veins and carries lymph from the upper right side of the body, while the thoracic duct enter the circulatory system at the junction of the internal jugular and subclavian veins. And after talking about after talking about the lymphatic system, it also brings me back to discussing the role of macrophage in removing pathogens. How does pathogens get removed by macrophage? A macrophage is the type of phagocyte. This cell is responsible for detecting, engulfing, and destroying pathogens and apoptotic cells, which is produced by differentiation of monocytes, which turns into macrophages after leaving the blood. Basically, it just helps to eat up. It just helps in eating up and detecting pathogens in our body, pathogens such as bacteria, virus, and the rest of them. And then the next thing that it does is it alerts the immune system of the presence of invader. It tells the immune system that there's someone here that is invading your body. It alerts them into action. And the three main groups of the lymphocytes are the granulites. The granulite also has got the neutrophils, basal, and the rest of it. And also it's also got the monocytes, which also includes the macrophage. These carry out a wide variety of protective functions, including producing antibodies, engulfing bacteria and protozoa, ingesting dead and infected cells and debris. Macrophages act in both the non-specific as well as specific defense of animals in general. It engulfs and then digests cellular debris and pathogens either as stationary or mobile cell, and to stimulate lymphocytes and other immune cells to respond to the pathogens. Removing dead cell material is important in chronic inflammation, as the early stages of inflammation and or as the early stages of inflammation are dominated basically by neutrophil granulocytes. When a macrophage ingests a pathogen, the pathogen becomes trapped in a food vacuole, which then fuses with the lysosome. Within the lysosome, the enzyme and the toxic peroxide digest the invader. And this brings me to the diagram of a macrophage cell, how it engulfs and how it eats up all these invader like bacteria and the rest of it. We can see in this the lysosome, the various parts of it, and how it performs its function when it comes to inflammatory signs and cytokines. And also the next question now for me to answer is acquired immunity and sensitivity to antigens. How does this happen? Acquired immunity develops after exposure to a suitable agent. It is not present at birth, it is learned. The learning process begins when a person's immune system encounters foreign invader and recognizes non-substance, that is the antigen. Then the components of the acquired immunity learn the best way to attack each antigen and begin to develop a memory for that particular antigen. It basically, what it does basically is that it learns, it adapts, and it remembers. And then through actively, that is when the body is intentionally introduced to a foreign antigen in vaccine, or through passive by introducing pre-performed antibodies into the body to generate a protective immune activity. There can actually be artificially acquired immunity. The immune system does not have the same level of sensitivity to all antigen. Thus can be autoimmunity, which is evidenced by the presence of autoantibodies. These antibodies is kind of directed against the person who produced them, and the T cells that are reactive with the host antigen. Hypersensitivity happens when an immune response to repeated exposure to the same antigen. And the next question for me now is that what are the roles of different types of immune cells and immunoglobulins Now it takes me to phagocytes. This type of cell engulfs and absorbs pathogens. It breaks them down, and the examples of phagocytes includes macrophage. Macrophage functions as just removing dead and dying cells. It patrols pathogens. Mast cells help in wound healing, defense against pathogens. And also we have neutrophils. Most common an attack is the most common part of all the phagocytes, and it does attack bacteria. And also we've got the monocytes. It is the largest type with several rows. And also it also brings me to another one, which is the lymphocytes. Lymphocytes help the body to remember previous invader and recognize them if they come back to attack again. It's just like when you've got mucus, for example, and then you get to have mucus again. Lymphocytes get to work and it gets to recognize such invaders. So if they come back to attack, it's got the memory of it. The lymphocyte begins their life in bone marrow, some stay in the marrow and develop into B lymphocytes, that's the B cells. Others head to the thymus and becomes T lymphocyte, that's the T cells. These two cell types have different roles, and the B lymphocytes, they produce antibodies and help alert the T lymphocytes. The T lymphocytes, on the other hand, they destroy compromised cell in the body and help alert other leukocytes. And the next one is just a picture of the different type of bodies, immune cells, the monocyte, the leukocytes, and the rest of them. Just the shape, the look of them, the shape of them, and how they. And discussing the different types of immune cells and immunoglobulin. Immunoglobulin, also called antibodies, are glycoprotein molecules that make up an important part of the immune system, which is responsible for fighting off infection, disease, and foreign invasion more generally. And they help identify and destroy foreign substances such as the microbes. Immunoglobulins are classified into 5 categories: the IgA, IgD, IgE, IgG, and IgM. Only IgA, IgG, and IgM are found in significant amounts in the human body, but all are important and potentially important contributors to the human immune system response. And also, this brings me to talk about the role of different types of immune cells and immunoglobulins. IgA accounts for about 15% of the antibodies in the human system, making it the second most common type of immunoglobulin. IgA is seen in a wide variety of biological secretion, including milk, silver, tears, and mucus. It tends to be non-specific in terms of the type of foreign presence it targets. IgD, on the other hand, is the rarest of the 5 classes of immunoglobulins, making up approximately 0.2% of the serum antibodies. IgD is found attached to the surface of the B lymphocyte and B cell receptor, where is believed to control B lymphocyte and activation and suppression in response to signal from immunoglobulins that are circulating in blood plasma. And also IgE accounts for only about 0.002% of the serum antibodies, and as such is a mediator of allergic reactions. Also plays an indirect role in the immune response by galvanizing other immune components into action. The IgG is dominantly antibody in the human body, accounting for a whopping 85% of all the immunoglobulins. It has the unique ability to cross placenta into pregnant women, allowing it to protect the unborn fetus and unborn baby. IgM has a short half-life, about 5 days, and make an approximately 13 to 15% of serum antibodies. Importantly, it is also the first line of defense among its 4 antibody siblings, being the first immunoglobulin made during a typical immunological response. And also the next slide shows the picture of these different types of antibodies. And now, talking about the tolerance of own tissue and rejection of transplanted organs. To be effective, the immune system must have the ability to discriminate between self and non-self cells in the body. Those identified as non-self, for example, bacteria, virus, and antigen, are attacked and destroyed by the immune system. The lack of an immune system response against the body's own tissue is known as a tolerance. When an organ transplant is introduced to the body, the immune system recognizes it, it does recognize it as a foreign material and therefore attempt to attack and destroy it. It is the immune response that leads to transplant being rejected. When a transplant is carried out, therefore, immunosuppressive drugs must also be administered to prevent the body attacking it in an attempt to introduce tolerance to the transplanted organ. The immune cells called the T lymphocytes recognize invader in the body, such as virus, bacteria, tumor, etc., or allergens. Normally, the T cells are activated by a complex series of signals at the end, which it will cause destruction of foreign substance. However, some T cells are not activated. In fact, they are inactivated by a process called allergy or tolerance. The process helps prevent immune cells from attacking themselves and other normal cells and protein. And rejection of a transplant is primarily due to the immune response of the T lymphatic cell, lymphocytes, also called the T cells, which attempt to attack and destroy any foreign material in the body. After being stimulated by the presence of an antigen, the T cell reproduce by mitosis, producing a large number of cells which can attack the foreign material. Therefore, most immunosuppressants work by interfering with their proliferation. To understand how this work, we must therefore examine the event leading up to cell division in T cells. And now this also brings me to scientific factor influencing. This also brings me to the study of scientific factor influencing immunity provided by vaccine. The time changes among diseases and immunization. Long-lasting resistance is uncommon, either normal antibodies or vaccination. Hence, vaccines are prescribed at various times of life, and once in a while, booster shots are required. In the youthful and exceptionally old, the term of immunity can be constrained. The method, delivery, bodily location of the delivery of a vaccine is critical to its effectiveness and to the safety of the patient. When an injection is required, the syringe should be appropriate to an age of the patient and should be suitable, and it should also be suitable for the site of injection and the routes of vaccine administration. Needle size also depends on the size of the individual, volume, and the injection technique. Vaccine composition. In some vaccines, adjuvants are added to enhance the immune response. Although adjuvants improve the effectiveness of many vaccines, they can sometimes increase the risk of reactions such as transient local nodules at the site of infection or temporarily malice post-vaccination. Also, another factor is the age. Age affects vaccination. Vaccination is the most productive strategy to avoid infectious diseases. The expanded vulnerability to disease of older makes them an especially significant target populace for vaccination. However, most vaccines are less immunogenic and proficient changes in the immune system in conceivable outcome for development concerning vaccine for the old. Novel approaches, for example, viral vectors for antigen delivery, DNA-based vaccine and creative adjuvants. And now brings me to combinability. Antibodies would in general be substantial less compelling in patients with compatibility or fragility, on the grounds that the immune system is basically overpowered. The human immune system is best when it can manage one condition at any given moment, when it approaches the battle at least two. And the next topic now brings me to the action of vaccine that provides active and passive immunity. Immunity is the ability of human body to protect itself from infectious diseases. The defense mechanism of the body are complex and include innate mechanism and acquired system. Acquired immunity is generally specific to a single organism or to a group of closely related organisms. There are two basic mechanisms for acquiring immunity: active and passive. Artificially acquired active immunity can be induced by a vaccine, a substance that contains the antigen. Vaccines provides active and passive immunity through artificial induced passive immunity. Passive immunity can be provided by the injection of human immunoglobulin, contains antibodies to the target infection and temporarily increases an individual's antibody level to that specific infection. These antibodies thus neutralizes the infectious agent in normal way, but in this case the protection lasts only a few weeks because the antibodies gradually break down and are not naturally replaced. A key point is that in artificial passive immunization there is no involvement. In active passive immunization there is no involvement of the person's own immune system. This is the major advantage to passive immunity. Protection is immediate, whereas active immunity takes time, usually several weeks or sometimes months, to develop. Passive immunity lasts only for a few weeks or months. Only active immunity is long lasting, that does last for a long time. Active immunity results when exposure to a disease organism triggers the immune system to produce antibodies to that disease. Exposure to diseases, especially to disease organism, can occur through infection with the actual disease or introduction of killed or weakened form of disease organism through vaccination. Either way, if an immune person comes into contact with the disease in the future, their immune system will recognize it and immediately produce antibodies needed to fight it. Active immunity is protection that is being produced by an individual's own immune system and is usually long lasting. Such immunity generally involves cellular response, serum antibodies or combination acting against one or more antigens on the infecting organism. Active immunity can be acquired by natural disease or by vaccination. Vaccines generally provide immunity similar to that provided by the neutral infection, but without the risk from the disease or its complication. Active immunity can be divided into antibody mediated and cell mediated components. And the next topic I'll be talking on is about the factors influencing vaccination safety, the risk perception and the decision making. So it brings us to what parents think. Parents believe influences their acceptance of vaccination, and the perception of risk is subjective. Many non-vaccinating parents believe the risk of disease is low, the risk of vaccine side effects is high, and or vaccination is ineffective in the first place. And also it brings us to consent. Consent can be difficult, especially for overseas visitors or divided families, and age of consent does varies from country to country. Even if parents consent, children cannot be vaccinated unless they are willing. Adolescents are difficult to reach and have a poor perception of risk. And also it brings us to improving uptake. Vaccination could be combined with other important preventive intervention for children. Flexible delivery modulates, and the cultural appropriateness of the message are important, as is the relationship between vaccination of membership of ethnicity communities. And also another point we'll be talking about is the incentives. It was found that financial incentives encourage prenatal visits and childhood in Britain, and used financial they were given financial reward to increase general practitioner vaccination rates. And this also brings me to the concept of the herd immunity and isolation of infected individuals to protect communities. Herd immunity is a form of indirect protection from infectious disease that occurs when a large percentage of a population has become immune to an infection, thereby providing a measure of protection for individuals who are not. The greater the proportion of individuals in a community who are immune, the smaller the probability that those who are not immune will come into contact with an infectious individual in the first place. Individual immunity can be gained by recovering from an infection or through vaccination. Some individuals cannot become immune due to medical reasons, and in this group herd immunity, it is an important method of protection. And also, once a certain threshold has been reached, herd immunity gradually eliminates a disease from a population. This elimination is achieved worldwide. It may result in permanent reduction in the number of infections to zero, called eradication. And and there's a picture of just an animation of herd immunity, of if most people get vaccinated. It shows the outcome of such herd immunity. And now I will also be talking about the effectiveness of vaccine. How effective are our vaccines? The Public Health England in 2019 actually stated that the effectiveness of the flu vaccine in 2017 to 2018 season shows that overall flu vaccine was 15% effective in all age groups. However, though, effectiveness varied considerably. By age group, the vaccine was overall 26.9% effective in children aged from 2 to 17, and 12.2% in at-risk group of 64-year-olds, and 10.1% in those aged 65 and over. There were higher level of protection against flu B and H1N1 PDM09, especially in children. in children, 60.8% was effective against the flu B, and 90.3% was effective against the H1N1 PDM09 in children. In general, current flu vaccine tend to work better against the influenza B and influenza A viruses, which offer lower protection against influenza viruses. And also, the MMR vaccine gives protection against the 3 serious diseases, the measles, mumps, and rubella. Before the introduction of vaccines, all these 3 diseases were extremely common and most important, and most people had them at some point, usually as children. A report of the most recent large-scale UK measles outbreak in South Wales in 2012 to 2013 showed 2 doses of MMR vaccine to be over 99% effective in preventing measles. Fewer than 1 in 100 fully vaccinated children caught measles during the outbreak. 1 dose of MMR was over 97% effective. It was over 97% effective in protecting against measles. 2 doses of MMR vaccine are also around 88% effective against mumps and at least 97% effective against rubella. Public Health England estimate that around 20 million measles cases and 4,500 deaths have been prevented in the UK since the measles vaccine was introduced in 1968. In addition, they also estimated that rubella vaccination has prevented around 1.4 million cases of rubella and 1,300 cases of birth defects, and averted 25,000 terminations. And how does the immune system cause ill health? The immune system is made up of special organs. The immune system is made up of special organs, cells, and chemicals that fight infection. That's microbes. The main parts of the immune system are the white blood cells, the antibodies, the complement system, the lymphatic system, the spleen, the thymus, and the bone marrow. In some people, the immune system goes into overdrive, causing the body to see its own cells as foreign and attack them. This leads to what is called autoimmune disease. Examples of autoimmune disease include rheumatoid arthritis. The immune system produces antibodies that attach to the lining of the joint. Immune system cell then attack the joint, causing inflammation, swelling, and pain. If untreated, rheumatoid arthritis causes pain, joint damage. Treatment for rheumatoid arthritis can include various oral or injectable medication that reduces the immune system overactivity. And also, this also brings me to how the immune system may cause ill health. Still talking about the immune system may cause ill health. The immune system people with lupus develop autoimmune antibodies that can attach to tissues through the body. The joints, lungs, body cell, nerves, and kidney are commonly affected in lupus. Tacrolimus oral prednisone, a steroid that reduces the immune system functions, MS. The immune system attacks the nerve cells, causing symptoms that can include pain, blindness, weakness, poor coordination, and so on. Various medicine that suppresses the immune system can be used to treat MS. Type 1 diabetes mellitus, immune system antibodies attack and destroy the insulin producing cell in pancreas by young adulthood. People with type 1 diabetes requires insulin injection to survive. And there are different ways in reducing risk of allergy. An allergic reaction is the response of the body immune system to what is typically a harmless substance or substances, for example, the pollens. The pollen allergies, more commonly known as hay fever, are caused when trees and grasses release pollens into the air. And to prevent this allergic reaction to pollen, one should check the weather report if the pollen counts and stay indoors when it's high if possible. Avoid drying clothes and bedding outside when the pollen count is high. Wear wrap-around sunglasses to protect your eyes. Keep doors and windows shut when possible. And when possible, shower and change your clothes after being outside. Avoid the greasy area and parks, and particularly in early mornings, evening, or night when pollen count is highest. And also now it also brings me to food allergies. Food allergies. By law, food manufacturers must clearly label any food that contains something that is known to cause allergic reaction in some people. To help prevent food allergies, one must not rely on the menu description alone. Communicating clearly with the waiting staff and asking for advice. Avoiding places where there is chances that different types of food could come into contact with each other. Letting restaurant staff know that your dietary requirements, including how severe your food allergy or intolerance is. Always checking that allergens are in the dish, even if you have eaten it before, as recipe and ingredients can change. And also animal allergies. It is not pet fur that causes an allergic reaction. Instead, it is the flakes of their dead skin, saliva, dried urine. How do you prevent it? You can keep pets outside as much as possible. You can wash pets at least once a week. You can also use an air filter in room where you spend most of your time. You can also take an antihistamine medication about an hour before entering a pet inhabited house. Can also help reduce your symptoms. And now also this brings me next to house dust mites. One of the biggest causes of allergies are house dust mites, which are tiny insects found in the household dust. How do you prevent them? You can prevent this by using tested allergy-proof covers on mattresses, duvets, and pillows. And also you can regularly wipe surface with damp, clean clothes. Avoid dry dusting, as this can spread dust into the air. Concentrate your efforts of controlling dust mites in the areas of your home where you spend the most, such as the bedroom and the living room. And also this brings me to the final part, which is just the reference, which I already referenced everything, and where I got all my material from. Thank you so very much for listening. 64-year-olds and 10.1% in those age 65 and over. There were higher level of protection against flu B and H1N1 PDM09, especially in children. 60.8% was effective against the flu B, and 90.3% was effective against the H1N1 PDM09 in children. In general, current flu vaccines tend to work better against the influenza B and influenza A viruses, which offer lower protection against influenza viruses. And Also, the MMR vaccine gives protection against the three serious diseases, the measles, mumps, and rubella. Before the introduction of vaccines, all these three diseases were extremely common and most important, and most people had them at some point, usually as children. A report of the most recent large scale UK measles outbreak in South Wales in 2012 to 2013 showed 2 doses of MMR vaccine to be over 99% effective in preventing measles. Fewer than 1 in 100 fully vaccinated children caught measles during the outbreak. 1 dose of MMR was over 97% effective. It was over 97% effective in protecting against measles. 2 doses of MMR vaccine are also around 88% effective against mumps and at least 97% effective against rubella. Public Health England estimate that around 20 million measles cases and 4,500 deaths have been prevented in the UK since the measles vaccine was introduced in 1968. In addition, they also estimated that rubella vaccination has prevented around 1.4 million cases of rubella and 1,300 cases of birth defects and averted 25,000 terminations. And how does the immune system cause ill health? The immune system is made up of special organs. The immune system is made up of special organs, cells, and chemicals that fight infection. That's microbes. The main parts of the immune system are the white blood cells, the antibodies, the complement system, the lymphatic system, the spleen, the thymus, and the bone marrow. In some people, the immune system goes into overdrive, causing the body to see its own cells as foreign and attack them. This leads to what is called autoimmune disease. Examples of autoimmune disease include rheumatoid arthritis. The immune system produces antibodies that attach to the lining of the joint. Immune system cell then attack the joint, causing inflammation, swelling, and pain. If untreated, rheumatoid arthritis causes pain, joint damage. Treatment for rheumatoid arthritis can include various oral or injectable medication that reduces the immune system overactivity. And also this also brings me to how the immune system may cause ill health. Still talking about the immune system may cause ill health. The immune system people with lupus develop autoimmune antibodies that can attach to tissues through the body. The joints, lungs, body cell, nerves, and kidney are commonly affected in lupus. Tequazeli oral prednisone, a steroid that reduces the immune system functions, MS. The immune system attacks the nerve cells, causing symptoms that can include pain, blindness, weakness, poor coordination, and so on. Various medicine that suppresses the immune system can be used to treat MS. Type 1 diabetes mellitus. Immune system antibodies attack and destroy the insulin producing cell in pancreas by young adulthood. People with type 1 diabetes requires insulin injection to survive. And there are different ways in reducing risk of allergy. An allergic reaction is the response of the body immune system to what is typically a harmless substance or substances, for example, the pollens. The pollen allergy is common more commonly known as a fever, caused when trees and grasses release pollens into the air. And to prevent this allergic reaction to pollen, one should check the weather report if the pollen counts and stay indoors when it's high if possible. Avoid drying clothes and bedding outside when the pollen count is high. Wear wrap-around sunglasses to protect your eyes. Keep doors and windows shut when possible. And when possible, shower and change your clothes after being outside. Avoid the grassy area and parks, and particularly in early mornings, evening, or night when pollen count is highest. And also now it also brings me to food allergies. Food allergies. By law, food manufacturers must clearly label any food that contains something that is known to cause allergic reaction in some people. To help prevent food allergies, one must not rely on the menu description alone. Communicating clearly with the waiting staff and asking for advice. Avoiding places where there is chances that different types of food could come into contact with each other. Letting restaurant staff know that your dietary requirements, including how severe your food allergy or intolerance is. Always checking that allergens are in the dish, even if you have eaten it before, as recipe and ingredients can change. And also animal allergies. It is not pet fur that causes an allergic reaction. Instead, it is the flakes of their dead skin, saliva, dried urine. How do you prevent it? You can keep pets outside as much as possible. You can wash pets at least once a week. You can also use an air filter in room where you spend most of your time. You can also take an antihistamine medication about an hour before entering a pet in a baited house. Can also help reduce your symptoms. And now also this brings me next to house dust mites. One of the biggest causes of allergies are house dust mites, which are tiny insects found in the household dust. How do you prevent them? You can prevent this by using tested allergy-proof covers on mattresses, duvets, and pillows. And also you can regularly wipe surface with damp, clean clothes. Avoid dry dusting, as this can spread dust into the air. Concentrate your efforts of controlling dust mites in the areas of your home where you spend the most, such as the bedroom and the living room. And also this brings me to the final part, which is just the reference, which I already referenced everything, and where I got all my material for. Thank you so very much for listening.